I was invited by Jagex to preview the brand new RuneScape combat skill, Necromancy. This preview includes the feedback made by the creators from the Jagex HQ trip back in May, as well as the RuneScape community. I've also had some questions about Necromancy myself, such as how it'll play, as well as whether or not it'll work in Legacy mode. And today, we'll be discussing my personal impressions with Necromancy during my preview, whether or not it works in Legacy, as well as talk about the post-Necromancy release roadmap they talked about on stream. Please note that this video is just a preview of the skill and strictly contains my own experiences as a playtester. I only had about 2 to 2.5 hours to play around with the skill. There's so many things I didn't even think to try out because I honestly didn't have a major plan going into this, nor did I know all the different aspects to test. Take this video with a grain of salt. First thing on the list, does Necromancy work in Legacy mode? In short, yes it does. I've been dying to know firsthand whether or not Legacy would be possible to play with Necromancy. I've gotten a lot of mixed responses like, yeah technically, or it kinda does, or not really. But in terms of how Legacy functions according to the other 3 combat styles, yes, it works. You can auto attack, and you can use special attacks. Unlike Magic though, where you have access to the spellbook for skilling spells and other spells, you do not have access to Incantations. This is a slight bit of a miss because not all the Incantations benefit just EOC, but they benefit combat in general. The following, for example. Darkness gives you a 20% chance to dodge incoming attacks for 4 minutes. Invoke Death applies a death mark to your target for 6 seconds, which executes your target if they fall below 20% of their total life points, which caps at 30k life points, which is 3k in Legacy. Split Soul. Basically the ECB special attack, so instead of healing from Soul Split, you will deal the HP you would have healed as damage to your target, times 4 for 20.4 seconds. The City of teleport just teleports you to the City of and Threads of Fate. Single target necro attacks will be cast on up to 4 additional enemies for 4.8 seconds. Now there's the argument of whether or not Legacy should even exist. To address this, my personal point of view is that in general, I think a game should promote and encourage their system as opposed to creating a crutch for people to lean on. Legacy is the crutch that was created post-EOC release to appease a specific desire, because let's be honest, the combat system in RS3 has historically been very convoluted and hard to get into. Despite personally really enjoying Legacy, and I personally don't ever want to see it go, I would completely understand if they decided to get rid of it because Necromancy brings in a very good combat system which eases you into the combat system. It allows you to play passively or more actively for better output, and it doesn't require a million switches. It's been coined EOC 2.0, and I completely agree. If this is how the game is promoted and is known to the broader audience, then I personally think the game studio should double down on that. Now, that's not to put any worry on Legacy-only players. I wasn't told they would be deleting the game mode by any means, but those are just my thoughts. Now, with all that being said, if Legacy isn't going anywhere, then I feel it should be considered in updates. I think Incantations should be available for Legacy as they would benefit the playstyle. As with the Magic spellbook, the abilities section isn't available in Legacy, but the skills, teleports, and spellbook sections are. As for summons and all of that, I don't think it should be available in Legacy. Those are understandably abilities, but Incantations I personally feel are the Necromancy variant of the skill, teleport, and spell tabs of the Magic spellbook. But regardless, in its current state, it works as if it were ranged combat with a charge bow. No specific ammunition effects, no spells that you can change to for special effects like Blood Barrage or Insight Fear, just full power auto attacks with weapons that have special attacks. I'll be exploring the depth of Necromancy from the Legacy perspective in my current running series, Leglocked, my Legacy Locked Iron Man. Episode 9 will be releasing before Necromancy drops, so make sure to catch up on the series before then. Now aside from Legacy, how do I feel about Necromancy as a whole? I love it. I think this is going to be the go-to combat style for a majority of players starting RuneScape 3 for the first time. The way the tutorial guides you through each aspect of the skill, the way the abilities are sort of drip-fed to you over time as opposed to just all being available at once is very helpful. Technically, that's how it is in other skills, but once you hit a level in other combat styles, you unlock the ability. Whereas in Necromancy, you can unlock abilities this way, but you also have to unlock passive effects or other abilities from the Well of Souls. You have to put in some extra effort to unlock powerful things, which gives it some tangibility, virtual worth, and something to look forward to. You have to make a choice on what you're unlocking as you progress in Necromancy as well, which makes you pay attention to the effects that you're unlocking. To give a personal experience, we were allowed to level up to level 20, then we could boost to different level intervals to test different things. I personally leveled up to 20, though I sped through dialogue and other things because of our time limit, so I definitely missed some fundamentals in there. But then I boosted to 99 Necromancy and then later on to 120. When I went to try Carapac for the first time with all these new abilities on my bar, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. I was overwhelmed, I didn't read any descriptions, I just wanted to see how it felt. The same could be said for someone who buys a full set of Crypt Bloom or Tier 92 magic gear in an FSOA. They could try hard mode care pack because it's possible in that gear, but they may not understand how to use that gear to its full potential because they don't understand how each upgrade works and affects your rotation or your combat decisions. Now obviously you won't be able to instantly go to level 99 or 120 out the gate on release. Lamps and stars will eventually work for the skill, of course, but not for a little bit. So you'll be tested to pay attention and make decisions as you progress, and with a limited currency, souls, and talent points that cannot be bought through GP necessarily. You'll be forced to read what each ability or effect does and deem whether or not it's worth unlocking for the content that you do. This may sound daunting to some, but in reality, it's much more beneficial because it takes away the overwhelming burden of choice. You still have a choice, but it's more refined with less fluff. Because when you have too many things to choose from right from the beginning, it's typically more overwhelming than it is helpful. On top of that, the info boxes, the interface, the skill and ability descriptions are all very easy to follow and are written in understandable layman terms. As for the feel of the combat system, I really enjoy how it works. The fact that you have a singular auto attack that builds adrenaline takes a majority of the complexity out of the combat system. The skill works with a sort of upkeep system as well. You have your basic auto attack, a basic summon, and then you have another aspect like necrosis stacks, which for some abilities can reduce the adrenaline per stack of necrosis that you have, which makes an ability usable with either the full adrenaline cost or for a lesser adrenaline cost in exchange for a form of stacked upkeep. And there are multiple forms of upkeep within the Necromancy combat style, each with different abilities that can spend said upkeep. It's really interesting to see how this functions in RuneScape 3 because it fits very well and feels very natural. It allows for flexible combat decisions, and there's plenty of synergy between different abilities. As for the rotation aspect, that I have no idea about at the moment. I started to read my ability descriptions to see which abilities would be beneficial to use in which order, though ultimately I'll leave that for PVME to figure out. Or I'll explore it in my new series to come post-release, Nefarious Necromancer, where I'll be building to best in slot necromancy gear while simultaneously learning all bosses effectively with this combat style. This will be the Necromancy variant of my Maxing Melee, Reckless Ranger, and Maniacal Magician series, so check those out if you want an example. Lastly, the post-Necromancy release roadmap. We have the skill release on the 7th of August, of course. In September, they will be making updates based on player feedback, and here's what I'm most excited for: October's Halloween event. I'm not sure what they have in store, but the fact that they are considering a rehauled holiday event that takes player feedback into consideration leaves me excited. Holiday events have become less about the holiday and more about a holiday-branded MTX event over the past years, so I'm excited to see how they deliver on this. Holiday events have always been a huge excitement point in RuneScape. Old school RuneScape is able to capture that charm that they used to have all those years ago, so I'm hoping that RS3 can do the same here. Then, of course, the new boss battle in November. If you've done Dead and Buried, then I'm sure you have a good idea of why there's so much hype, but if you haven't done the quest, maybe skip to the end of the video because there's spoilers here. So the timestamp is on screen for that now. I don't have any insider info as to what this boss will be, but based on the graphic and Dead and Buried's cliffhanger, I imagine it will have to do with Vorkath in some fashion. Necromancy is about raising the dead. Zamorigul is a Majorat necromancer who happens to be the main antagonist of the Fort questline. The whole slider puzzle area had a mural of an undead dragon in an island, and dragon corpse spread throughout the lair. So I have like a 95% certainty rate with this assumption. I imagine it's something along the lines of Zamorigul raises Vorkath from the dead and you have to dispatch Vorkath, or it's a similar situation to Vindicta and Gorvek where you have to fight both of them in some fashion. Something like you fight Zamorigul, phase 2 is Vorkath, phase 3 is both, or maybe it's just Vorkath and we potentially get Zamorigul at a later date. Or Vorkath eats Zamorigul. I genuinely have no clue, but whatever it is, it has a solid lore connection and those are the boss fights I enjoy the most. Necromancy is going to be an absolute jam-packed release with so much to look forward to. I genuinely think it's going to change the path of RuneScape 3 going forward in the best way possible. Share your hype, what you're excited for, and drop any questions below and I'll respond to as much as I can. If you'd like a community to hang out with for Necromancy, you can join my brand new clan, Rheysins, where we have a calm and encouraging environment with a focus on PvM. You can also join my Discord, link is in the description, and lastly, if you'd like to support the channel, you can always join as a channel member like those on screen now. Thank you so much for watching, I'm Rheyo, and I'll see you for Necromancy's release on August 7th.